Ladies and gentlemen, we are now live, and I am so excited. My name is Floyd Marshall Jr. I am your humble host. Welcome to a conversation with. And today, my amazing guest is Staci Pippi, co-founder of the Etheria Film Festival, a film festival geared towards women in horror. It is a world-renowned global film festival, and quite frankly, this is the first time when I met you in California, that was actually the first time I had heard of it. Only because I'm not a real big watcher of
Okay,
horror. But
sure.
then when I found out that it was geared solely toward women and just women directors, I was like, oh, I really have to check this out. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, and those who will be watching in the future, I am so excited to have Staci on because when you look up the word prolific, she's staring back at you because she does quite a bit. I did a little research. So
Uh-oh.
I'm just going to give you guys just a small snippet of who she is. Say, Staci Pippi Hammond is a co-founder of and festival director of Etheria Film Night, along with her business partner, programming director Heidi Honeycutt. And Staci has kept her finger on the pulse of women directors in horror, science fiction, action, and fantasy for over a decade. Etheria highlights both veteran and emerging filmmakers and was named one of 25 bloody best genre fests in the world by Movie Maker magazine. The Movie Maker magazine, ladies and gentlemen. The Etheria lineup has premiered exclusively on Shudder since 2020, and Etheria selected filmmakers from across the globe have gone on to successful horror careers, including Danis. Now, how do you pronounce that last name? I don't want to mess it up.
Goulet.
Goulet, Danis Goulet, Night Raiders, Gigi Saul, Guerrero, Culture Shot, Natalie Erica James, Relic, Roseanne Liang. I hope I got that right, Roseanne. Shadow in the Cloud, Chloe Okuno, Rodney and
Mhm.
Cheryl, and Axel Carolyn, Haunting of Bly Manor. Now, while short films selected for Etheria's lineup have been adapted into recent features, including Prano, Bailey Bonds, Sundance premiere Censor, and Jill, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name,
Gavar Jizion is
what
how
she
I say
said,
it.
the
Yeah.
stylist. So, welcome to a conversation with. I am so happy to have you here. How are you?
I am really good. It was it I knew we were opening submissions today, but
Mhm.
waking up this morning and my phone has just been notification, notification, notification. I'm like, wow. So it opened up and submissions for 2023 are just flying in.
That
So
is awesome. That is such a great message to get. The notification message. I
yeah.
love getting those because I have a film festival for myself. So when I get those, I'm like, yay, we got another one.
Right.
Um, but enough about me. How did all of this get started?
I'd love to say, I went to this school and studied this and realized my passion lay over here. And that's not how it is at all. Truth. I am a fan of the genres. I'm a fan of horror, science fiction, action, have been my entire life. Um, you know, I as a small child, um, parents didn't realize when cable came out that they had to monitor what we watched. So I got to see a lot of, some of the B movie greats of the late 70s, early 80s, way before I probably should have.
Mhm.
I mean, reoccurring nightmares of, from Phantasm of being chased by a ball, recurring, right? So it really started there. So it's been a lifetime love, and I can say everyone that I've really met within the industry that does work in genre are big fans themselves,
Mm.
and they love it. And I think it shows. I mean, you can't watch so many of our bigger tent poles that come out from certain directors. You can always tell their own geekiness and nostalgia that's built in. That's how pretty much this whole group is. So raising my boys, I was a single mother, and very engaged, and I mean, the oddest soccer mom. I'd show up at their games with them on my own skateboard and get really weird stares by the other parents, but whatever. And then we would do a lot of comic conventions and movie festivals, age appropriate for them growing up. And so I got to share my love of geekiness with my boys. And it did that for years. We went to Comic-Con before it got really crazy there, every year, and my kids dressed up. And it was my son. Most people that know me know this story. My older son, for his birthday, we kind of had a thing where I always wanted to do something special on a birthday. It's not just let's just have a party and give you a present, but what's something different we can do? And he hands me a copy of Fangoria magazine, and it's opened up to the Weekend of Horrors convention in Burbank. And he goes, I want to meet Wes Craven. He's my favorite director.
Wow. And
I said, okay. And it was his birthday weekend. So where we had done many comic conventions, many smaller horror conventions where I raised them, we had not done a major horror themed convention before. Like we'd done Comic-Con, we'd done WonderCon, but not a giant horror convention. And we went and we had a phenomenal time. And it was his birthday, but for me, it was the opportunity to finally meet my tribe and meet people a lot like me. So that was, I have friendships that go back to that event, that very first event of people I met. And it became a thing for us to go to that event every year, to start seeking out others to go to. And what happens within this circuit, it's sort of, it's carny style life. Fans, vendors, guests, hosts start to intermingle. And, I had people that asked, hey, you're always there. Would you like to help? So I started working in conventions first. I originally met Heidi. She was really drunk. I'm serious. If you ever do talk to Heidi and you interview her, she'll be like, yeah, I don't remember, actually meeting Staci, but she does. Heidi was already very well known. She had been a horror actress. She was really part of the LA horror scene. Had started the very first web blog geared towards women of horror. Kind of a for us, by us horror for women. And she's at the time she'd gone to schools, journalism major, media, horror, because she loves horror. So it's one of those things that you meet people in and out of time. And she had gone on board with another film festival for women, exclusively horror, and I got brought in a year later to help out there. And we were there several years together. And when the founder of that, closed it down, there was a void. We decided, you know what, let's do this, but what would we do differently? And I do believe there is a time and a place for everything, a different home for everything. Art is subjective, right? So it's like, the island of broken toys or whatever.
Yes, there are misfit toys.
There's some great films that don't always quite fit into a mainstream fest. There are some great films that don't always fit into our festival either, but we've looked to find other homes for them if we love them. Or like me, I go and make a whole other festival because I just loved it, but it didn't fit. So what did we decide to do when we founded Etheria was a very purposely minded boutique of, look, a big thing that happens for some great gems in larger film festivals is they get lost in all the other events going on, all the bigger named. If you have a phenomenal short film in a festival that's got 8 blocks of shorts over several days, right?
Yes.
The chances are who's going to show up for your block is the other filmmakers in your block and their supporters, right? And if you're lucky, you're in the block that has that film by that famous director already, or that stars somebody that's going to be in attendance that everybody already knows, or yada yada. The one that already has the buzz, the one that everyone knows already has distribution, and you're lucky. If not, there are some amazing films that no one actually watches.
Yes.
So our goal was, okay, so let's do a single shorts block of the best of the best. That is the one we show. We will have runner-ups that we will tour and promote and push out through other venues. But for our main event, one phenomenal block that has everybody in their seats watching the entire lineup. Basically, our shorts block is our shorts list to Hollywood. Every single one of these women and their shorts are ready right now for studio work. Give them a feature film, put them on a TV show. They're ready. Every single
So let
one.
me ask you a quick question with that.
Sure.
Who determines, not that they're not, but who determines that they're ready?
Who determines that they're ready? So to make it to the final round, ultimately, it is Heidi and I deciding that we think that they're ready. So it's our reputation is staked on this, that we said they're ready. Who wins, who, is never us. It is annually we'll have a panel of judges, 25 industry experts. I mean, everywhere from former alumna from Etheria, journalists, producers, other directors, writers. We've had so many different people. It's really hard. Rachel Talalay has judged almost every year. Gail Ann Hurd has judged almost every year. It's been a couple years because the guy's been busy, but James Gunn has judged for us before. There are so many people that touch it, and we like that it's not a single person that says, okay, this is the best one, but you've got 25 successful people looking at it from different angles, right? And honestly, some of them say just straightforward, hey, this short A was super beautiful and really unique idea, but this director on B, totally commercial. I can sell them all day long. From shots and organization and story layout.
Okay, well, and you know what? That's fair, because at the end of the day, it is a business. So if they're looking at a film and they say to themselves, well, you know what? Wow, this is amazing, but that one is going to make us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sometimes that, I hate to say it, ladies and gentlemen, but sometimes, oftentimes, a lot of times, that is the deciding factor, because studios are not in the business to lose money. So you said that the runner-ups actually get to tour. So then how do you guys go about doing that?
Well, it's been on a bit of a hiatus right now because of the pandemic. But prior to the pandemic, and a few places, we're still, the Kansas City link has stayed very strong. But previously, we partner with other theaters across the country for standalone events. We would include those. And I was also on the convention circuit, bringing those films and those other films across and playing at conventions as well. So, and also, Anybody that's in the runner-up category now, well, I'm jumping ahead of myself because there's an order to this. There's another thing that I'll jump back over to in a second.
Okay.
But we definitely, champion. We also partner with other festivals. As you know, festival directors talk to festival directors. I might say, Floyd, I had this awesome submission. But it's not genre, but it has this great content that I think fits your festival really good. And yeah, anyone who says festival directors doesn't do that, they're lying. We share that with each other.
They do. I had a lot of Cheryl Bedford's, a lot of her filmmakers, their films immediately were in mine.
Right.
No questions asked.
Yeah. So we do, and it's not, it's a professional referral. Like, hey, if this isn't on your radar, go check out this film. I think it's a good fit for you. And that's good for, the partnerships with other festival directors. It's not a competition. There should not be only one female directed horror festival in the world, right? The more we have, the more people are getting to watch the films. So that's one of my goals from the beginning, was not only to say, hey, Hollywood, hire these women, but okay, until you do, I'm taking it to the masses. So I want to tour them. I want to do conventions. I want to host online viewing parties. I want to work with the filmmakers and where are they with sharing their content? If they're like, hey, I'm done. I've made the circuit. It's retired. I was just going to throw it up on my YouTube. Any filmmaker that does that with a short, they don't have to distribute with us. I am going to say, hey, Jane Doe's short film from 2 seasons ago is available to anybody to watch on YouTube. Go check it out. I'll do it. It doesn't have to be through us. We are here to champion any women directors. There was something that was said a few years back about why we didn't have so many tentpole women directors, and another person, that you can Google it, had said women can't physically handle doing an action film, directing an action film. The stamina, women don't have the stamina for directing or don't, something, they weren't strong enough, whatever it was. And I'm like, if a woman's directing an action film and she picks up something heavier than a coffee cup, there's a different problem on your set. And it has nothing to do with her personal physical stamina, right? That's the heaviest thing she should be picking up, is her coffee cup.
Absolutely.
So has things changed? We are celebrating 10 years. Next year is 10 years of Etheria. Heidi and I have been doing it years before Etheria, right? And I got to tell you, when we first started, we almost literally knew every woman in the game, right? Because it was such a small pool, and it's not having that opportunity. It all trickles down. Well, we'd hire this woman if they had more experience. Well, to get more experience, you have to make something. Well, to make something, you got to have money, right? It
amazes me when it's the same thing. If you were to go out for a certain type of job, well, you need experience. Well, in order for me to get experience, I have to do the job. In order for me to get to do the job, I have to get hired.
Right. And and overall, the view on short content has changed.
Yes.
And a lot of that, and thank you, viewers that loved short content. I've always loved it. Historically, that was sort of your business card throwaway example of your work, and that's all its value was. It had no commercial value. Streamers, we saw during the pandemic, when they're desperate for content, realized, oh, people actually like watching these. Airlines start buying them up. Oh, people actually like watching these. So that's helped as well.
Yeah.
And there are some phenomenal high production value shorts out there. Some may have been self-funded pilots to pitch for a series or for a longer version, but there's some incredible work.
Yeah, I've seen some shorts that just blew me away. They were far better than in a lot of feature films that I had seen.
Mhm.
And I guess it's subjective. It always amazes me how people will kind of just push aside something that they're not interested in, thinking that
Right,
other people won't be
right.
interested in that. And I guess that's what you guys kind of ran into, with Etheria, thinking, having people say, well, first of all, there are not enough females doing it. And if they're doing it, they don't know how to do it right.
Right,
Not having watched the
right.
women actually make the
Sure.
films, because you mentioned one film. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Uh, you said it was on DVD, but then it went by the way VHS, but it kind of got lost and went by the wayside.
Hmm.
But now it had a resurgence. Oh, I can't remember the name of that movie.
Well, there's a few. I mean, yeah. Well, and then there's also that there could be only one thing for a while,
Hmm.
right? We have Catherine Bigelow. What else do you need, right? That went on for a long time. A lot of that. Oh, we hired a woman once; it didn't work.
I just, you know what? Okay.
Um,
Why is that mindset? I can't even
a lot of
understand where that
a
mindset comes
lot of
from.
the true and untrue statistics on, well, this is what sells. People don't want to watch that. Yeah, they do. You haven't offered it to them. You
Hmm.
know, how do you know they don't want to watch it? Um, mm, I mean, we can go on and on and on and on and on about that. But so what I've seen though is at the beginning there were few, and when we started growing and reaching out and advertising more for submissions, we would literally get excited when we get an amazing short from a woman that we've never heard of before.
Hmm.
We're like, oh, this is great. Who is she? Like, we need her in our coven, like um, growing and growing from around the world. Oh, we got submissions from Iran, from India, from Israel, from Egypt, from Russia. Like it was coming from everywhere, and it's like, who are these women? I got to find out more. And the schools, having some partnerships. We've presented Etheria enough. Also, another part of the tour that a lot of times is presented not through the film studies class, but through the women's studies class as we tour universities,
Mm.
right? Because there's always been that horror movies are misogynistic thing. It's like, well, they don't have to be. Things can still be scary without it being misogynistic. Let me
Absolutely.
show you how. So we've done a lot of those, but then also film students, certain film schools, Florida State, AFI, right? UCLA. We get a lot of submissions from their students. So Chloe Acuna, who just directed the Watcher, that's
Hmm.
done really, really well, what was an AFI student at the time that she sent her short film in to us. And there's been several of these schools, and I want to say, like, some outside of LA, some of the schools, every year we get a few. I'm like, oh, this one's really good, but not quite there. But we'd have the tour. We would give critical feedback, talk about, what needs to be worked on, or if no, it's great, but it didn't quite fit what we focus on,
Hmm.
right? I've kind of seen, some professors maybe encouraging their students to submit to us and telling them up ahead of time, like what our requirements are. So I've seen the quality and the fit out of some students work a lot better.
Hmm.
There again, going back, because a lot of people in the industry that work in genre are fans themselves. You will meet people with different hats on at the
Hmm.
time, and it goes back and forth, right? So Rebecca McKendry, who just directed Glorious, which is doing amazingly well, really horror, has been a moderator for us before. We did a scholarship fund with her before. and she has also been a professor at in LA, so it's back and forth, right? The more it's grown, and I always said my goal was to be obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
We're not quite there yet because it's still sort of flavor of the month. We've seen this before. We've seen this before with diversity initiatives in Hollywood. The moment we stop talking about it, suddenly it's really bland and testosterone driven again.
Yes.
Right? Happens every time. So we're going to continue to highlight, which we think are best. At some point, eventually, do we need to, phase out of this? I hope so. That's always been the goal. But there are still very few mainstream festivals that are picking up enough women and people of color and queer voices, period. We do stats every year. Oh, hey, look, out of this many submissions this year, they've got four women. Go festival. Good job. Which is why I was so excited when we met Michelle. Like,
yes,
I cried. I'm like, this is how a festival should always have been. This is when, people talk about, oh, we have this, or we've been this, or we're welcoming to everybody. It's not enough to say you're welcoming, but actually be welcoming. It's not enough to say anybody can submit, but actually make sure you are representing across the board every voice. And I thought that it was, if every festival had already been doing what Michelle does, I wouldn't have to exist.
Yeah, because I had attended a lot of other film festivals years earlier. And one of the reasons that I decided to go to Michaud was because of Clubhouse. And a lot of my friends that I had met on Clubhouse live in LA.
Yeah.
So I said, well, the best way to actually meet everyone in person is to fly to where they are. And it was a win-win because I got to go to a phenomenal film festival and I finally got to see everyone in person. But yes, the festival was amazing because of the amount of diversity of just the films, of the people that were in it. It was just awesome to see.
That, and being top tier, having all the bells and whistles without it being snobby. It was still, it had all the swagger, but still open arms to everybody that walked through that door. Whereas other places that have that, you can instantly be a wallflower.
Yes.
See, that's the other thing too. I've always collected. I don't want anyone to feel like a wallflower at their own event. So anybody that comes to Etheria, if they're shy, I'm pulling them. Or if it happens that 5 people already know each other and they're all off talking, I'm making sure this person doesn't get ignored and gets in there and gets chatting up with other people. And the fact that Michelle did that on such a large scale, I just bow down to him, and it felt like church. It was just like
it was very nice.
I was very, very moved, and I'm like, this is it. I don't know. I can't stop. I'm foaming at the mouth about it. I keep telling everybody, that's like, hey, where I should submit, or I'm definitely sending it to you, but I'm trying to work out my plan for submissions. I'm like, Michelle. I don't care. What do you got? Yeah, send it to Michelle.
It was just so very welcoming, and that's where we met.
Yes,
and it was welcoming.
It was welcoming,
and you felt a part of a family. You really did.
Right, with the glitter.
Yes.
To do both. How do they balance both?
You know what?
So many other fests that have all that glitter keep the glitter people away from the other people a lot.
Well, I will say this, and I hope that they stay this way. There was another festival that I used to attend. I'm not going to say who they are because I love them dearly, but they have gone very Hollywood. And they used to be like Michelle way back in the day. And
there's a few top tier ones that
and it was really sad because at Michelle, you really got to intermingle with everyone. But the other ones, like you were saying, all of a sudden there was a wall, there was a rope. Okay, right. You, the fans, stand over there while the royalty stands back here and you can't get near them.
Or filmmakers, oh, you have tickets to your block. That's it. If you want more, yeah.
Which is crazy. So I will definitely be back next year, and I hope to see you there.
Or all the other ones are like, oh, now you have to pay for your photos. Oh,
yes.
Now you have to pay. Oh, what?
Yeah. But let's talk about.
Sorry, we went off on this tangent, but that's why I started this, is to fill this gap, and we thought, let's fill it with let's focus it on this women directed of the genres, the redheaded stepchildren of the film world, horror, science fiction, fantasy, action. We branched it out.
So when you decided to do that, I'm guessing that the response is overwhelming, because you were saying that you receive over 1,000 submissions.
Yeah.
So who gets to watch all of those?
We have, a small team, but most of them are Heidi and I, and throughout the year. It never fails. We usually get our list down between 50 and 75. And we get kind of stuck, and now we have to balance it out. And there could be a film that it just comes down to, I got 8 amazing zombie comedies. I can't have 8 zombie comedies. And now we got to really start being critical. I loved all 8 of these. You know what? This one's good, but the acting and the lighting. All right, so you're out. Like it's almost there. And we have to do that. Like, who would have thought in 1 year I had 2 amazingly incredible lesbian dystopian Westerns in 1 year? And they're both awesome. I'm like, right?
I've had that problem.
Well, yeah. So, it's tough. So it is us. Now we very rarely do get stuck to where we can't agree on a final lineup. Almost always we get to where, let's say, because of timing, we have between 7 and 10 films, right? We get to where we're almost there. We have just a few more that we have to decide on, like who has to go. And there'll always be one that she's like, I definitely want this in here. I'm like, eh. And there'll be one, I'm like, I definitely want this in here. And she's like, eh.
So then when you
have to bring somebody else in to help us decide.
So have you guys, because I've run into this problem when I was running my other film festival, when I would get to that problem, and we would all get together and we would say, you know what? Because with ours, we had 5 films in a block, but you would see a couple of films and you would say, there's absolutely no way that I can leave this film out.
Yeah, it's hard.
And there's only 5 films to a block, but you know what? I'll rent the theater for another hour and a half, because there's no way I can leave this. So have you guys ever run into that?
Yes. And for our main lineup, all right, so let's go back pre-pandemic. We usually did not have that problem. It was more a matter of not having our audience fall asleep, right? Because again, because I would have the Egyptian theater for the whole day, right? So in the afternoon, I'd be setting up. We would have a 2-hour all you can eat and drink in the courtyard celebration with the red carpet and the press line. Go in, do our Inspiration Award winner, right? Have their speech. And then go into the shorts block, which would be, an hour and 40 minutes to an hour, 45 minutes or so. Then we have Q&A, then we have awards. It's a very long night, people are going to get restless. So what have we done is, you know what? We're going to push 2 hours. We got to put that one more in there. And it's, let's move this part, the seating part up. Let's move up the inspiration a little bit so we can start a touch earlier. And give everybody a bathroom break before we jump into Q&A because it's a long set. Or that's where the tour was. So, again, it's been a problem because the tours, so many end up in that level, finalists that don't make it to the main event, that getting that opportunity to put more of that out into the world again. I'm trying to rethink it and trying to work with some new partnerships. Technology's changed, working on some different contracts to where, maybe we don't host it ourselves, but we have that lineup, and I send to, you got a theater in Illinois. Hey, here, boom, here's everything. And on this date, send the DCB back to me, whatever. Trying to find different ways, or send a link so they can burn their own.
Okay.
Copy, send a Blu-ray. How can we do this differently? And it gets tough too, because with the tour, usually I had control of deliverables. And it gets touchy when you start getting into so many different hands having having access to somebody's work, and where can that end up going?
Wow. Yeah, that's a very true statement.
So what's been really nice was, because of the pandemic, we were unable to do the Egyptian theater. We've been doing, usually it was a different time of the year where we would do a tour stop here in Kansas City. And so I changed to doing a Kansas City live event. But we made a different deal with Shudder, and it's under festival rules. So the last few years, and we plan on continuing it forward, is to play for 30 days on Shudder, AMC's horror channel. And it's a short window, but that's the way that it works as a festival. This isn't distribution. They need to stay eligible to be in other festivals and everything else. So the last few years, that's run, mid-June to mid-July for 1 month. The year's festival was available. What else do we have? On Shudder, we have prior seasons. I think we're up to maybe 6 seasons now of content from prior years of Etheria. And that includes main event and our tour films as well. So it's the same thing. So I can't say, I don't make it a requirement of Etheria that all of you must be available to me for a distribution deal. I don't. When we do the distribution, it's non-exclusive. It's just branding together with these other films, but you can still do other things with your work. So, especially with student films, a lot of times the schools are involved with that ownership too. And some are happy to share it and give us the rights. But so at least that's one more thing that these runner-ups that will be, there'll be offers for many of these films to fill some slots. It goes to our main event first, those that can accept, and then we fill other slots for Shudder. And those are up permanently. That's a distribution agreement. So there are several seasons of Etheria permanently on Shudder.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, then I will definitely have to check that out. But I want to go way back.
Okay.
Not too far. Basically when you first started, because you said you would attend conventions and they were, well, you're always here. Are you a part of this? No. Well, why don't you become a part of it?
Sure.
And I was listening to an interview that you had done.
Oh, wow. You really researched.
Yes.
Oh,
I have to kind of know what I'm talking about when I'm talking to my guests. But you did an interview with the gentleman by the name of Matt. I don't know what Matt, I can't remember Matt's last name. We are going way back. And you talked about the fact that you knew more than you thought you did. And the reason that I bring that up, because oftentimes in this male-dominated industry, one of the things that you get a lot from the males is they don't know what they're doing.
Sure.
Which is nothing could be further from the truth. So when I heard you say that, I said I really have to ask her about that. So how do you and your partners navigate that when you keep running into that? Well, they don't know what they're doing. They've never done that. Their lane is, as you had said, romance,
Sure.
and,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
so how do you guys deal with that?
That's what Etheria is to say, really? Go look at this. Tell me again that they can't do it. Have you watched this? Yeah, bite me. Like, it's basically what we do. No, so I think what was almost shocking to me was finding out which one of the stereotypes about Hollywood were actually true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have a business background, and in a male-dominated, industry within business, and myself personally, I had my methods of dealing with that and seeing a changing environment in corporations. Right? When I started back in the early 90s, being an Asian woman who looked like she was 12, it was very hard to be taken seriously as a manager. I mean, I don't know how many times a client would show up and demand a cup of coffee and tell Mr. Hammond I'm here. Like, all right, here's your coffee. Go outside, have a cigarette, and play a game on my phone, whatever. Come back. You know what I mean? That happened a lot. A lot. Working with a guy that's like, yelling at me, oh, you stupid little girl. Don't you know I've been doing this longer than you've been alive? And me going, whoa, you've been fucking up that long? So I've always had that. And maybe part of that cockiness, I mean, it was always instilled into me that don't ever let anyone tell you that, you are stupid. Like, don't ever let anyone question your intelligence, especially when it comes to logical things that are math and science, like you can prove. And that's been my background. Being in California, more protected employee-wise, where I'm like, I double dog dare you to fire me. I will follow retaliation, right? But I was always a really good hard worker too. I'm a very, very good worker, very hard worker, but I could call certain bullshit out all day long. And it was kind of shocking to me where I had seen so many strides are things perfect? No, but I'd seen a lot of changes in the business, and in most corporations, larger corporations, not mom and pops, take discrimination, harassment, fairness, nepotism policies are taken very seriously, right? And so that was sort of shocking to me. And as I got to know people, and when I said, oh, I know more than I thought I did, is when I realized so many incredible artists they can go to school, they can learn so many things, but no one teaches them business at all. And they're thrown out there. It's like, okay, I can do this. Give me money. Well, give me a budget. What's a budget? Well, I need this much money. Okay, where's it going? For the stuff I need. Give me the budget. So whatever, and that was what was shocking, where it wasn't even anything formal, but just talking through, friends that were working on short films, and I'd be like, well, boom, we'll map it out like this, or what do you think about this? And where they could juggle their shot list, I'm like, I almost had to break it down and say, okay, the same way you think about your shot list, let's talk about how you think about your money. Right? And I would kind of work through it that way with them, and that's where someone says, oh, you should get into line producing. I'm like, well, what? And I looked at them like, well, that's what I do, just not here.
Right.
And I think that's like when you talk to Nikki, I think this is how Nikki and I really became good friends. We're in completely different industries, but we can talk shop, and I get what she's saying and she gets what I'm saying when it comes to accounting nuances and how other people mess it up. Sorry. It's fun.
That's okay.
It's fun. That's where I realized in producing, and I mean, the producing title can mean so many different things.
Yes.
And person A, yes, you are a phenomenal producer of these things. And when you got hired here, they were looking for a phenomenal producer of these things.
Yes.
And now they think you're a horrible producer. I wish we had better, clear titles of exactly what these roles are.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I actually had Nikki explain the differences, because it's kind of like a big umbrella. Oh, I'm a producer. What kind?
Sure.
What kind?
Yeah.
But they don't do that.
And I mean, or they could, but it doesn't mean they're using it that way. It could be because you have to look at it. Well, how many people did I have? Was it this many people? Was it this many people? Was it this many people is going to make a difference of how many different hats you were wearing on that production. Was it TV or was it film? It's going to make a difference. So, but yeah, I wish it was a little bit more, because so when people are searching, especially when you're on a low independent budget trying to get something done, you ask for, I need a producer. You might get someone who's phenomenal, but they're not what you need.
Right.
Because that's not what they produce. Happens so much.
Yeah.
And that's where I just realized, and everyone, I've so many different offers, like, oh, quit and join and do this. And I don't have time, and I kind of need to keep my day job. And in a way, I kind of like having my day job too, because I'm out here making a stink, and these Hollywood people can't threaten to me not work ever again because my money doesn't come from them.
Right.
Joke's on you.
So you know what?
Really getting sponsorship though.
But you travel. Well, before the pandemic, you traveled quite a bit.
Correct.
So I guess your job was pretty flexible in that, letting you travel, because again, listening to a couple of your interviews, you travel extensively.
Well, I travel for a job.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and what's great about technology these days in Film Freeway is I've everywhere I travel, I got this thing, and I settle down for the evening, and before I go to bed, I'm going to watch 3 or 4 short film submissions from my hotel room.
So I have to ask you, because you talked about just being real firm in what you know and not being afraid to let people know that. Yeah. So did you get that from your parents?
Oh yeah. I did. Did I use it the way they expected me to? No. Did I end up being the only child that they don't worry about? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that can go a whole different route, and we could have so many comments coming back from professional therapists on that. Short story is having an Asian mother that, I mean, every trope you've ever heard about. Like, did you see that there's that meme that's going around from Shang-Chi where someone put the most unbelievable part of this movie is the mother hugging the son going, "I'm so proud of you." I'm like, I felt that in my heart. It's true. Mom, I got a B. You can't go out. You need to study more. When I was in middle school, I came in second place in a math competition. A public school kid in middle school beat seniors from a very prestigious private school. Came in second place.
Not good enough.
Not good enough. I didn't come in first. What?
But let me ask you a question about that.
So, yeah, it's tough.
But did that kind of make you who you are now? Absolutely. As someone who's really so hardcore when it comes to really advocating for women that for us, there can be no second place because second place is basically obscurity. So
Right.
has that helped you?
Um, I mean, I guess I never thought about it that way. Um, I mean, here's the thing. My festival is nothing but women.
Mhm.
I get really sort of irked at other festivals, and actually got into it with a woman about who added a best woman director category to a mainstream fest. I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, we call that best director. Why? So you have, I go, is the best male director called best male director? No, it's best director. I'm like,
Mhm.
so why can't the woman win that? I go, what if the woman wins both? Well,
Mhm.
that's not going to happen. Why? What do you
Because
say?
they're both directing.
Yeah, I'm like, so it's tricky. It is funny. So my background, because of the way I was raised that way, it took me a long time to even get into different women's organizations.
Mm.
At the time, I was more of I'm going to just work my ass off, and I don't want to get a promotion because I'm in a women's steering committee. I want to get that promotion because I earned it,
Right.
and that's okay. At the corporation I was at, it worked out fine. And I realize that's a lot of luck too. It doesn't always work out that way. And I opened my eyes a lot in seeing in Hollywood, like, that whole thing's dysfunctional. Co-employment issues abound because everybody's independent companies. And that made it very hard for certain things to be held accountable for so long,
Mhm.
that I think we're seeing an end to. Right? Hopefully. Well, not an end. We're seeing at least a current reckoning on it.
Mhm. Mhm. A
How
shift.
long a shift, but how long will it last? How permanent is it?
So let's talk about. I'm going back to your childhood because I heard such an amazing story about when you were a kid
Uh-huh.
and the fact that you didn't want to listen to mom and dad. And from my understanding, dad really played a big part in your love of the horror genre.
Yes.
But you really didn't like listening to your parents, as most kids don't, because they think that their parents are telling them things that, they just don't want to listen to. I have two daughters, they're both grown now, but ran into the same thing.
Sure.
But you decided to walk it down the road and take it to grandma's house.
Correct. Because my little child logic brain was my parents saying, you listen to me, I'm your mother. You listen to me, I'm your father. My logic was, I'm going to grandma's because dad has to listen to her because that's his mother.
Now, how old were you?
I had to have been around 4. My parents got divorced very shortly after that.
That was some hellified logic for that
Yeah.
for that age. So you decided you're going to take it to grandma's house.
Mm-hmm. Because dad had to listen to her. And all right. Yes. Yes. My father, one of the early memories, very early memory there. And then right after visiting him, he would wake us up in the middle of the night to watch creature features on Channel 2. So he would share, his love of old science fiction horror movies, monster movies, Toho movies. Later on, he introduced me to Logan's Run, things like that. But it started with my father, and yeah, I think my horrible sense of humor comes from him as well. Yes, I have dad humor. I did. I took off. I don't even know what it was I was arguing with my parents. I was 4. But I do know in my brain, my stupid logic was, I'm going to go ask grandma because she'll say I can do whatever it was I wanted to do because that's my dad's mom and he has to listen to her. So I'm going to go make him listen to her. And I took off down the street, and she lived about a mile away. It was down the same road, but a mile away. And I took off. And if you imagine a city it's very flat, very grid setup of streets, I'm going kind of straight down. And my father, I think they tried once, get your butt back in the house. And I just kept crying and walking, whatever, kept walking down the street. my father, instead of going out and grabbing me, throwing me over his shoulder, picking me up and carrying me in the house, like a normal father probably would have, decided instead to drive around another block to get ahead of me, get in the car, drive a couple blocks up ahead of me, and put on a gorilla mask and jump out of the bushes at me as I walked by, thinking it would scare me to turn around and run home to my mother's arms. And it didn't work. So we tried it again. A couple blocks up, we tried it again, and it didn't work. Other than me crying and screaming quicker towards grandma's house. I get to grandma's house. I mean, I can remember pulling myself up from the iron railing, seeing the ivy growing to get to that front door and knocking on the door and looking up because I'm so little. And my grandma opens the door and she's like, "Stacy, I love you. Come in." And all of a sudden she gets attacked from behind by a gorilla who slams the door in my face. And I pissed right there all over the porch. So yes, I like to say I like to face my fears.
But he gave you a healthy love. I know that was a little traumatic. And in today's day and age, they would have probably called the neighborhood would have called child services,
Oh,
all that other
sure.
good stuff. The fact that they let you walk down the road by yourself. See, we were, I don't know how old you were. I'm 56. We were built different back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, eating candy off the ground, things like that.
No, we were at the playground from sun up till sundown during the summer. And I'm hearing about parents getting arrested because their 12-year-olds are at the park during the day. I'm like, at 10 and 11, I was babysitting other people's kids.
Mm-hmm. And you couldn't come home if you were that age. Once you went outside, your parents like, you can't come back till dinner. That's the way we used to operate back in the day. But times are different now.
It's different. And you knew all your neighbors and
yes.
Neighborhood parents policed all the kids.
Absolutely.
Right? You were told when you're out there, you're playing soccer in the cul-de-sac around the corner. Who's going to be there? Johnny's mom is in charge.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to her. And Johnny's mom had permission to discipline me if I got out of line.
Absolutely.
That's how it was. We were the feral generation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's pros and cons to it. A lot of it, my older son got raised a lot the way I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an adult now. And he says, Mom, it was really hard at the time because it was so different than my friends. He goes, but you gave me tools that my friends don't have.
Yes.
There you go.
That is so true. Coping skills,
mm-hmm.
social mechanisms, learning how to actually deal with a problem and solve it. Mm-hmm. Because oftentimes in those social hierarchies of kids, there are pecking orders. And you had to learn how to do things, and you had to learn how to deal and navigate.
Right.
And navigate things. It just wasn't, well, I'm going to run home and tell my mom. That's not how it worked.
No.
Well, at least when I was growing up, that's not the way it worked.
No.
But you said your dad used to set things up in your garage?
The train set, yeah. So he built, the scale model trains. He had 2 girls, so he shared, he took us hunting, he took us fishing, he taught us woodworking, leatherworking, and how to build model train sets. So he built a beautiful one with like a working volcano and everything. And it was set up, it was on a hoist. So it's at the 2-car garage. It lifted up so we could park the cars. But if we wanted to play with the train set, it lowered down.
Oh, wow.
So it filled a 2-car garage with enough room to walk around it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was a big train model set.
Wow. That's beautiful.
And he lifted it back up. Oh yeah. Back then I was a younger one. My dad had his little MG convertible. I would sit in the back of an MG with the top down and fit. There weren't seatbelt laws back then.
No. I think we've kind of gone into another podcast.
Yeah.
The way things used to be as kids.
But no, this fits good because what's the hot thing right now in horror and sci-fi? 80s nostalgia.
Yeah.
right? Look at Stranger Things, look at Paper Girls. Like it's all, that was our life.
Yeah. And
That
and
was
and
our
my
life.
and actually my wife just got me watching Stranger Things, and I'm absolutely hooked on it. And since we're on that, what is your favorite horror movie? If you
Life
have
Force.
one. Life Force?
Life Force.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
Toby Hooper. Toby Hooper. It was written by Dan O'Bannon, who also did Alien and Total Recall, a bunch of other things. It's my favorite because it's a smorgasbord.
Mm.
It's got a little bit of everything. It's got alien vampires and also mind melding units, and it has Steve Railsback, who's known for playing oh my God, Mason, and Patrick Stewart.
Love Patrick Stewart.
Being taken over by this creature, and they are this close to having a wonderful on-screen kiss. They stopped that short back then. Also, Matilda May, stars as she's the head vampire. What I liked about it is I think you're probably aware of a lot of scripts, but there was a requirement kind of back then on a script that you had to have the gratuitous nude scene.
Mm-hmm.
Insert boob scene here, and you would get these films. It's like for no reason at all, she's suddenly walking across the hallway changing her clothes, and then you go on with the rest of the story.
Right.
There was always that nude scene. And the great twist on this is when they bring this alien vampire back to Earth, Matilda May escapes, and she is butt-ass, full frontal, nude, full naked, running around, killing everybody. And she does it with agency. So that was like a early example of the nudity was beautifully done. It was there for a point. I mean, they didn't throw clothes on the thing for modesty. Right. She was nude. She was in space nude, and she remained so until she took over a different body and got clothes. But she's out there just destroying.
Okay, I'm going to have to. Okay, well that's on the list. So we're about to close because I don't want to keep you all night because there are 50 million more questions I would love to ask you. So you're definitely going to have to come back. What would you say to a young lady or young ladies that want to go into horror, as far as directors, screenwriters, the whole nine, but they're getting that pushback from people saying, well, maybe you would not do that because girls really don't do that kind of stuff. What would you say to those ladies?
Hang in there. I mean, I think I've watched that part's getting better. The Hollywood hiring thing is a different matter. The Hollywood money thing is a different matter, but the encouragement of young women to pursue what they want to pursue is getting better all the time. Horror itself, though, there's always going to be families who are just like, direct, but not horror, right? It's always gotten a bad rap, always. And, but it's fun. It's marketable. It can be well done on a low budget, right? Not always, but it can be done well on a low budget. And you have a place where you can take an imaginative twist on any story and turn it into a horror. I mean, come on, we have a Winnie the Pooh horror coming out. Like, you can do anything. Yeah, copyright ran out.
Oh, wow.
So, what would I tell them? Like, find your people, find those that encourage you. It's the same, whether it's a horror movie or anything else in the world. Find your tribe. Find your tribe. Find the people that that aren't just yes men people, not somebody that just says, oh, you're awesome. Oh, you do it. Oh, yeah. Have a real friend that will tell you when you're messing up, that you will listen to them and take that advice. Know the difference between what you want to do and what you're already good at doing, and fix your skills at what you want to do before just jumping over there. Figure out what skills you already have from something else that can be applied to what you want to be your career. And know your lane. If you get invited in, oh, you're going in for experience, know your lane. If you're working on somebody else's project, they're the one, it's their project, they're directing, don't tell them how to direct it, even if you think you know better, unless you're asked. So know your lane. What women, it's all different, but I don't say this right. In general, for better, for like you said, what holds women back a lot of the times is never doubting your qualifications because you've never had the chance to really hone that skill. I think women we're all pretty good at tuning our horn when we know our stuff. But when we don't know that we know our stuff, we're not as good at faking it till you make it. Right. And what happens is sometimes we don't realize we know our stuff because no one's bothered to tell us. Women, a lot of times I've seen on set, often will attack an issue and not each other to get it solved. And can be collaborative. So again, know your lane. But if that person reaches out and asks you, then tell them. And they're more likely to be responsive to it. But also know your lane.
Now, and I know I said that was the last question, but I got one more.
I think that applies to anybody, though, right?
Yeah.
Know your lane.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And that's good advice, especially that last part about trying to tell someone how to direct their film on their set, because that is a total disrespect issue. And unfortunately, it happens so often with women directors and male DPs and first ADs. A couple of my friends that I've done clubhouse rooms with, they've actually had to stop production and have side meetings. Like, hey, excuse me, my set, I'm writing the checks, I'm directing. I hired you to do a job. You didn't hire me.
Sure.
So
on a tangent on that, I do have to throw this out there for advice for young women. I'm sorry, because you said advice for young women. So, collaborative co-directorships can be amazing, right? Like I love Turbo Kid all day long. There are some amazing collaborative directing partnerships that exist. 2 men, 2 women, a man and a woman. Two trans women who are well known for before they were known as being trans women. Like, there's all kinds of combinations. But women, don't get stuck in the trap of giving a co-directing credit to a man because you think they know more than you do. If they're mentoring you, it was your idea, it was your project, they're mentoring. There are legitimate co-directing partnerships that I think are phenomenal, but I see too many times young women starting out because of that doubt, and they bring in a guy as a co-director that really probably wasn't necessary and probably derailed it from what they first envisioned their project to be. Hire a phenomenal male producer, a male AD, have a consultant. But unless you are a true collaborative directing partnership, where one of you is working on the shots, with the camera, and the other one's working with the actors. But if it's more of a mentorship, don't even go there. Work a couple other roles until you're comfortable jumping into the director's chair then. Because you'll get trapped. Women often get trapped making men look great.
Okay. Well, one more question.
Okay.
And this is not a man bashing podcast.
It's not.
It's not. We're just giving you game.
It's not a man. I love men. I love men. I love you. I love men. It's women professionally that have to get rid of this self-doubt.
Absolutely.
And know that you are capable.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
And because you know what, a lot of talent is going overlooked because of that. So much talent, because when it finally emerges, so often you're sitting there like, what? I didn't know she could, because you never gave her the opportunity.
Right.
So it's not about, well, men are bad. No, I'm a man myself. But things are so much better when you have everyone on board. You know, I was in the military, so taking orders from women was that was second nature. If she was a commander, she earned those gold bars on her collar. So if she said, well, Petty Officer Marshall, go do this, yes, ma'am, and you follow that order because she had the experience. Okay, enough for preaching. I just have one more question.
Okay.
Why do you think that women, well, no, let me rephrase that. Do you think that oftentimes when women were told to kind of steer clear of this particular genre, was it because of the fact that it can be gratuitous and that, you know, there can be a lot of blood, an overwhelmingly large amount of violence? Do you think that that's one of the reasons why?
Yeah, particularly a lot of the violence that was directed at women, a lot of the misogyny, a lot of the tropes, you know, right? We all know it's like deal a meal, right? I need a perky sidekick who's going to die early on. We need the virgin. We need the black friend. Right, we need
never makes it to the end of the movie.
the unrequited love, you know, interest. We need the asshole boyfriend. We need the guy that she doesn't know she really should be in love with, right? And now, all right, spin that, you know, deal a meal and spin that wheel. We're gonna set it in space. We're gonna set it underwater. We're gonna set it, you know, in a cabin. We're gonna set it in an abandoned warehouse. It is. Crazy. It's like Mad Libs. They're all the same. Yeah. So yes, but that's where I'm saying, you know, and there's still some pretty awesome. I love cheesy, stupid gore movies. Right? Love them. A lot of women love them. But that's the thing where I'm saying it doesn't have to be like that. We can make a horror. Most of the time we're told not to because it's not prestige. It's not you know, it's like to some people, horror, comparing a horror movie to other genres of movies are like comparing Shakespeare to Captain Underpants. That's how it's viewed. They're like, why bother with that nonsense? Do a real film. You know, and it's less about the content. It's just that because the content, it's schlocky, it's B, it doesn't have to be. And anytime you have an awesome horror movie, they refuse to call it horror. They call it a thriller. Or lately, what has it been? Elevated horror. So what you mean is it's a good movie, is what you're saying. It's a horror movie that's also a good movie. So they throw out those terms. Silence of the Lambs, horror movie. I will say that. It's terrifying. It scared the crap out of me. There are some bloody, gruesome scenes. And so they'll say, well, it's a thriller.
A psychological thriller.
Which is a branch off of horror. Horror doesn't mean slasher. There's some people that to them, horror just means slasher. They'll also say Jaws is not a horror movie because there's no serial killer. It's just an animal doing what animals do. I'm like, it's still scary as fuck.
And that's horror.
That's horror. Horror is what scares you.
Mm-hmm.
When Get Out came out, went with a very large group of women. We're gonna go support, yeah, boom, 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 and leaving, and kind of busting up, laughing over which people in the group were like, it was a great movie, but was it even scary? And the group that looked at him going, that was terrifying. Do you not? Well, maybe they should explain. No, it doesn't need to be explained.
Mm-hmm.
You get it or you don't get it. It affects you or it doesn't affect you. Same for all movies.
Mm-hmm.
Recently spoke about same thing happened with speaking to people about Everything Everywhere All at Once. I really liked it, but the beginning was confusing because suddenly you're just in their kitchen and I don't know what's going on. I'm like, every single American Asian knew exactly what was going on in that kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
We felt it in our bones. I can tell you what she keeps in the top left drawer of her china cabinet, and it has nothing to do with serviceware.
Mm.
Like, we felt it.
Yeah, we got it with Get Out.
We got it because this is a reality. Like all these things. I gave examples of some other movies. I'm like, well, did you understand this? Well, of course I understand. Why? Why did you? Same thing happened. Same sort of jump in and
mm-hmm.
and go with it. Opening. But well, that was normal. Normal or white? Right? It's been the default for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, well, but you go back to the movies. You can't market this anyway. You can't market the horror. You definitely can't market the horror movie by a queer woman of color. Like a disabled queer woman of color.
No.
Yeah, you can. There's definitely, let me show you the audience for that.
Mm-hmm.
Or in the horror movies for song. Why were they slashers? Well, that's what sold. No, women are most of your audience. Sell to us. 51%.
Oh wow.
I think some of the different certain movies you'll look through and you'll see, 18 to 35-year-old woman, bought 65% of the tickets. So we can't tackle everything in the world, which is why I took this one little piece of Etheria. I truly feel in my bones that if everybody in the world took one little thing that they had a passion for,
mm-hmm.
and did service for others with that passion in some way, within their city, within a certain community, within schools, wherever it is, it would make the world a million times better, right?
Yes, it would.
Holistically, if we all did that. So I took this one little area of woman-directed science fiction, fantasy, action, horror, short form, one little snippet, and hone in on it. Somebody else take another little snippet. Women writers take that, highlight them. Like I don't ever. Everyone's like, well, why don't you do a 5-day festival and have all these things? I'm like, no, because hopefully other festivals do that. That's what other festivals are for. They should be doing that. I want to keep pushing them to do that. I just want to give a short list and get these women in that chair getting studio work done. And I think it's moving. The needle's moved. Not enough. And there's so many more voices, so many more, and so many more every day.
But you're doing a phenomenal job.
Trying.
The movement is moving.
It is.
So where can people find you?
Wow. So EtheriaFilmNight.com is our website. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm terrified of TikTok. I'm a lurker. I watch. I need to post a video or something. But I'm like, oh, once I start, what do I do then?
Post another one.
I know. I see. Yeah.
It took me a long time to get on the Twitter, the bandwagon.
But we're out there. And then of course the Film Freeway is open for submissions now for 2023, which will be our 10-year anniversary. We're hoping to make it, extra exciting to celebrate 10 years. where else can they find me? Hopefully things ease up, and I'll start putting some other standalone events together as well.
Now that's awesome. Now, before we go,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to share something with you.
Oh boy.
This is, can you see that?
Yeah.
That's on TikTok.
Uh-huh.
And that's you. I put up the post, but really, almost 700 views in one day, saying that, hey, I'm going to be interviewing the co-founder of Etheria Film Festival, Staci Pippi, and I have almost 700 views. One video. And I didn't say anything. It's just so imagine what would happen if you started posting. And you know what?
I'm working on something. I'm working on, I have a writer working on it because I'll overthink it too much. I'm like, just little snippets.
Yeah. Of the film festival.
I come across like, a mom posting. It's like me trying to do TikTok is like our grandma, putting call me on our Facebook wall.
Yeah.
Like that's how I come across.
Yeah. But you know what? It took me a long time to get on there because
I
probably like you saw the performing and everything. I'm not doing that. So I just basically get on, and if I talk, I'll talk about my podcast. I'll talk about film stuff. So you do what you know. That works for me. Do what you know. You don't get millions of views, but you're hitting the audience you should be hitting. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I have gone down some interesting rabbit holes. I'm like, wow, this exists. I'm going to stay here for a while, and just I think it's an incredible communication way. I just haven't jumped into the playground.
Well, that's okay. It ain't going anywhere. But Staci,
we gotta go. We've been talking too long.
Every time we say this is it. That's okay.
Okay, well, it sounds like a call to my mom. Okay, I gotta go, but okay, I gotta go, but
we were supposed to go about 22 minutes ago, but that's okay. People got some extra stuff.
You didn't make this like a real intimidating podcast type interview thing.
No.
This is literally a conversation with Floyd Marshall Jr.
Yeah.
And that's why it's hard to hang up the phone.
That's okay. So we're about to hang up, but Staci, this has been absolutely amazing. You definitely have to come back. And actually, I'm going to have to bring you guys. I'm going to bring you on with Nikki and Cheryl. I want all of us to get on together to see what trouble we can get into.
Will there be drinks?
You know what? Everybody bring a drink and we just go freestyle it.
You might not even be able to say a single word on your own show if you.
And that is okay.
Together in one room.
That is okay. Because you know what? And we're still talking. But if people actually learn, that is the main goal. This is all about people learning. So if I just get to sit back and sip my Tito's, I'm perfectly fine with that. I am perfectly fine with that. So, Staci, I'm going to let you go. But this has been such a pleasure. And I know when people watch this, they're going to be like, well, he said that 25 minutes ago that they were lit. But Staci, it has been an honor. It has been a pleasure. It was such a pleasure actually meeting you. I look forward to seeing you again, and hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm definitely going to go on Shudder so I can start watching some of these amazing horror films.
Absolutely.
But hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in tonight to a conversation with Staci Pippi. And again, I am your humble host, Floyd Marshall Jr. If you like the show, please share it, tell your friends, subscribe, all that other good stuff that they always ask you to do. And I'll just end it with this. Love this like a hobby, but please treat it like a business. Have an absolutely amazing night. All right.